A very good morning and welcome to this special live broadcast. We're here at the Heroes Acre on the outskirts of Windhoek, where we are gathered to, of course, observe the centennial birthday. That's 100 years of liberation icon and stalwart Herman Andimba Toivo. He would have turned 100 years old today, of course, having died some 8 years ago back in 2017. On the 9th of June 2017. But today, family and friends are gathered here to celebrate what would have been 100 years since this gentleman was born in 1924. Of course, we now cross over to the program, which will be presided by Na Sangula, who is the chair of the Centenary Committee. And we now cross over to the official proceedings.
On the 22nd of August, on the 2nd of August, 1924. Today could have been his centenary birthday if he was still alive. Now he is no more with us. We are gathered here this morning to join his family in paying homage to his deeds, his actions, and his thoughts. We are here to remember his immense contribution to the making of the Namibian nation. We are here to commemorate his trials and tribulations in search of Namibia's freedom and independence. We are here to celebrate his tenacity, steadfastness, and perseverance during the long and protracted struggle for our nationhood. We are here to draw inspirations from his exemplary life trajectory. We are here to reflect and to say tributes on the lives and times of our revolutionary legend, Andimba Toivo. I would like, therefore, to ask Meme Vicky Yatoivo or her representative to come here and to welcome us at his gravesite. Oh.
I'm a little bit taller. Your Excellency, Nangolo Mbumba, the President of the Republic of Namibia, former Prime Minister Tate Nahas, friends, family, the media, good morning to you all on this cool morning in Windhoek. The family of the late Andimba Toivo would like to welcome you to Heroes Acre today on what would have been his 100th birthday. He is someone who the family happily shared with the Namibian nation because he had so much to give. We as the family always take time to celebrate him. The family is grateful for this opportunity today and would like to thank each one of you for taking the time out of your busy schedules to come and commemorate what would have been his 100th birthday. We are also that many of his friends are here. We are also happy that the media is here to lay the basis of his legacy in the thoughts, minds, and actions of Namibians. We know that he would have been very appreciative of all of this. Welcome, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we are going to continue with tributes and reflections on Toivo's life. May I humbly request my young brother, Hiramuto Angula, who worked for Toivo the other time, to come and share his thoughts. He claims he was never paid.
Thank you very much, Director of this gathering. Excellency, Comrade Bumba, Meme Toivo, and the children, friends of Toivo. Omivo Atadi Vura Namapenda Fule Ogaya Ogetushifira. Years and generations are passing on. They left it to us to make it or break it, as he had said as one of his final departing point of message. We owe to him, we owe to all those who are lying silently here to make it. We made a solemn pledge to continue where they left it, to build a united nation, a country from evils of discrimination and hatred. As we shall commemorate his centenary, we are once again called upon to remember their blood that waters our freedom. As I said, we did make solemnly pledge to move forward. I hope and trust that we are doing so. But it's a great debate whether we are doing so without wavering. It's a great debate whether we are keeping the country united. It's a great debate whether we are living up to the revolutionary deeds that the comrades resting here left us to fulfill. If we failed, the young generation should pick up the mantle and make sure that we redirect our country to the revolutionary path that we have solemnly pledged to keep. It's a great challenge. There is no easy road. Our yesteryear's slave masters and colonial masters are ever knocking at our doors with carrots, and where they do fail with carrots, they do come with the sticks. We just have to remember not to waver, but to forge forward. Throughout the continent, however, there are signs of fatigues among the present generations of rulers. But once King Ipombe Ashilongo said, "O inina, tae ashito, ye mutochiti." Meaning, generations after us will come to preserve our dignity and respect for the African people. Where we failed, dear fighters lying here, forgive us. Hopefully, the young generation will come and rise to the occasion. Although there are some debate and doubt whether the young generations on the African continent are living up to their expectation. They seem to be happy and thrives on the crumbs left on the table by the masters. All over the place, laziness, lousiness, ineffectiveness, corruption, love of material world is being experienced even among the young generations. So the Ininas, the new prophet has yet to be born to take us out of the slave bondage that we continue to be victims of international conspiracy to plunder our resources, to belittle us to deny us of our right and place on this globe called our Earth. As we commemorate this centenary, I pray and hope that we return to the basics of humanity, respect and love for one another. Stay away from the hatred. And for my people, my family, my Toivo family, please keep it up. Isaac, Philemon, don't forget the instruction we were given to carry out that duty that was left to us by our beloved dear Toivo. I know it's not easy. It's a big challenge. But we dare not abandon the path and the duty. Comrade President, let's carry on the banner even higher. It's not easy, I'm aware. But under the circumstances, the fight must go on. Thank you for the opportunity. Dear Chairman of the Semnoema Foundation.
Thank you, Patikanguroki. Comedians, are you around? Comedians? Yes, governors, are you around? Yeah? She's not here, is it? You know, the sun is, I'm facing the sun, I can't see you. But let me invite my uncle, Ben Amadira. Can you share your thoughts with us this morning?
Good morning. I'm not an eloquent speaker as Kangulohi wants to write out an invoice to the late Toivo to pay him for things done in the past. It's a duty obviously of the Director of Ceremony to welcome our President and the family. Let me echo the same. Let me tell the family that Toivo didn't make the 100 years, but you are the one to carry both his memories, his commitments, the pain that he felt that make the 100 years fresh in our memories. Just an observation. When we designed this Heroes Acre, I have a feeling that we missed out on something. We left everything to time to decide who's going to get a place on this memorial. Or let me put it this way: we did not allow a space to arrange the laying down of those, not to reward them, but to recognize their significance. The significance of what they have done, what they have contributed. Now you find Andimba is lying close to his comrades, but that is determined by those of us who claim to know him and may decide that now let's lay him there. Yeah, Andimba was a very great man, a great achiever. Most of what he did went back to the grave with him. And it is for those who had the opportunity to know him, maybe to narrate, to strengthen what he did in life. Comrade Kangulohi mentioned quite a number of things, very challenging things, about new generations coming up. They don't know anything. They are not interested in knowing what people like Andimba has done for this country. One of the classic work reflecting not only his work, but the tears of the Namibian people was his statement to the court in Pretoria. It embodies quite a lot. If only our schools has found a place to learn the new generations the interpretation of what he said, maybe some of the young people will come to appreciate what Andimba has done for this country. He has made a fantastic statements. And the last one, which Comrade Nahas tried to sort of cite here, he said he will be watching us from wherever he is, how we are going to continue building or breaking this country. He has done his best. He left this up to us. I came to know Andimba the first time in 1961. I went to see him. There were certain things. Swapo was just in the making. There was no constitution. It resembled building a house just from your own ideas. You put a brick here, you walk a distance away, and then you find that, no, this brick doesn't fit here, or let me knock it into place. Somebody come and say, no, this brick is misplaced. Why don't you do this? That was the time when bravery, courage, was the yardstick of leadership. Remember 1961, those who had the mantle of leading this, it was not a party, it was a movement. In Tsumeb, we had somebody called Levi Mashekele. In Lutheris, we have somebody called Erasmus Muba. I don't know whether you know him. In Oranjemund, we had somebody called Franz Daniel. who was later called Mshingi Odila. And I think later came John Otto Nankudu. In Chivarongo, you have Lucas Shafuda. There were few people who just by mere courage and the understanding, there was no principle to guide us, just independence. First, freedom. That's what we wanted. Toivo was a businessman. He was not guided by his business acumen. He did his business, but did not forget his responsibility towards the Namibian people. He spent part of his money to make Swapo running. Until I think 1963, he bought himself a bakkie which was used to a large extent to ferry people around and to provide that communication. In the later years, he was not a man who sort of tried to push himself forward to assert things that people did not agree with. He waited, he listened, he gave advice. And when the critical time came, I say critical, when we realized, or it was realized, after Kwame Nkrumah in Ghana advised those countries which were still in bondage that, look, you are going to liberate yourselves. Don't wait for anybody else but yourself. And Nkrumah also advised that wherever there was more than one liberation movement, it's better for them to unite and to be united in facing their oppressors. Maybe sometimes you've heard about Swan Leaf, which was a result of the call by Nkrumah. Some of you might have heard of Clemens Kapoor sending 156 of 64 people to Botswana to go and train for the liberation of this country. That was the time when there was no constitution and there was no provision to guide our people that we are switching from a peaceful movement to armed struggle. And in 1965, when the first guerrillas came into the country, Andimba played that pivotal role of keeping those pieces together. And when some of those pieces were failing, he'll make his resources available to put out the fires. There were fires. I remember an incident in Okalongo, where something almost ran out of control. He has to take his resources to pay up some of the damages in order to keep people quiet because of the love of his people, the love for his country. And then, in 1965, I don't know whether it was Comrade Nahas or was it Comrade Mbumba, we visited a place called Uyoka. That was Nahas and Mbumba as well. Yeah, good. Now, we had a permission from Martin Ashikoto, who was the chief or king of Ondonga. But there was Philemon, what was it? Philemon Ashikoto. No, one of the Malengas. Ashikoto. Yashilongo. who was sympathetic. Ashilongo. Ashikoto. We gathered there, and there was a policeman who was trying to force his way into the house there. And I'm told that his name appears in a monument in South Africa for the good job he has done for the oppressors. Andimba used his vehicle to take us to that meeting, which was a very critical meeting. Later, I'm told that John Otto Nankudo also was there. That's what he claimed. He said he was there. He was at a distance. Mind, he was actually the person being sought. So he attended that meeting. On our way back from that meeting, we found a white guy in khaki shorts sitting under a palm tree. I was driving that vehicle, and I thought there was a coordination between the policeman who was trying to force his way into the house and the man sitting on near the small table. And it looks like that was Mr. Swanepoel, the person who played a very, very big role in arresting and witnessing against our guerrillas. Thereafter, the Angulas and the Mbumbas left the country. I think the Helmut also, they left the country. And that's when the struggle started. Now, the problem we had there was we did not educate our people that we were switching from a non-violent organization to... And after that, when people were arrested, most didn't understand. We did not provide that switch. Some were arrested and they said all kinds of things. Maybe it was good that they did not know. But our biggest enemy was ourselves, the secret. When something has to be done, it was known only by a few all the time. And Andimba played a very pivotal role in bringing all those links together. But there was also an element of jealousy, I think. Some of his colleagues also tried to do what he was doing, business, but it was less successful. After Onjonjo, that was now the Swanla big outfit at Ondangwa, and Dimba's shop was well-stocked, well-organized. So he was a very successful person, I would say, in those days. So, but he did not leave the struggle alone. Whenever somebody came trying to get assistance, the liberation, it's either Veyo will come into the shop or he'll close the shop and carry out what needed to be carried out for the guerrillas to do what they needed to do. He didn't talk much. Yeah, Toivo, to me, he didn't talk much. I stayed with him quite a number of times, and he was actually the link. Some of us were not allowed to enter the so-called Ovamboland. Now, I may come to Tsumeb to Levi Mashekele and ask whether he knew of somebody who arrived from Ovamboland. We borrow the travel document from that particular person. And when I got to Ovamboland, I'll pass it on to Yatoivo. And he sent it back to, there was no picture, there was no photo on this document. It's only when you take it to the police station to be chopped, then obviously that becomes a bit difficult. But before you take it to the hospital, you send the document back. And when my time was up and I have to return, He look around, scout around, find somebody who came from the south, from the police zone, borrow the document, get the document, and I use the document back across the Namutoni bridge. Those days, there was not Toshivelo. You travel through the Etoshapan. Meviki and the children, I would like to echo what Comrade Tangula just said. I was looking at, and possibly it's not a very good thing to mention, I was saying that how many are they? There's Nuyoma, there's Boamba, there's so-and-so, Vini and Daddy, possibly Peter Kachavivi. And they are becoming so few. And after that you have the Angolas, the Mbumbas. Thank you. Thank you. Very soon we are going to have a situation where we are going to tell here stories. And distortions will come in. And bread and butter issues will become the issue. It doesn't matter what Andimba has done. It doesn't matter what he said. He told the judge, maybe if he didn't mention that, the courage to tell the judge that you said I was a coward. Yet your people were working with the Nazis to kill people. Now you say, I was a coward for guarding all your installations during the war. Now I'm a coward, and you are the hero. Beautiful, strong statement. And he warned that you remain only strong as long as your weapons are stronger than ours. He's a person who believes that the acquisition of weapons, there's no limit. Anybody can acquire. And if Nyoma have to tell you how he got his first gun, which laid the foundation of the war, ferried all the way from Algeria, Cairo to Dar es Salaam, it was only one gun. And later, we had more guns than we needed. All these were prophecies from Andimba Toivo. Those days we used to call him Herman Toivo. He said quite a lot of things in that statement to the judge. And maybe the judge felt that he was too cheeky and too arrogant and what. So his sentencing went up, very up. But he did it for you and me. But the youth generation don't care. They don't want to know. Until we remind them that what they are having today and benefiting from today started with heroes like Andimba Toivo. If that statement could be, we could find a way of having it taught at school and explain, maybe some of the young people will start that feel of patriotism to become part of that struggle which was fought by the forefathers before everybody disappeared. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Uncle Ben, for taking us through the memory lane. Now you're right to say that your generation is disappearing. Now, what you have told us now is also going to disappear. So I hope that you will commit it to paper and give it some life. Comrade Hirauchi Tuete was a contemporary of Toivo, very good friends. They were together at the St. Mary's Odibo School. And he wished to be here. But because of his age, he is not here. And saying that he sent his daughter to come and say something on his behalf. Is the daughter here? Tuli! Oh! Welcome.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Your Excellency, honorables, friends, family, loved ones. It really means a lot to be here with all of you this morning. My father would love to have been here today, as would my mum, but unfortunately he's recently had a medical emergency, so they have sent me to represent our family. The words that I am about to share are the words of my mother, Jane Shitchuete. I am honored to pay tribute to Andimba Toivo on the occasion of his centenary. I remember him as my husband's best friend, who he first met in 1949 when Helau was a skinny 15-year-old and Andimba 10 years his senior and his English teacher at St. Mary's Odibo. Helau described his first impression of Andimba as a rather glamorous figure, handsome and at that time still taller than him, open, friendly, a great communicator and generous in sharing his knowledge and ideas, self-disciplined, determined to achieve his goals and expecting the same from his students. These were the traits of the great leader he was to become. Their paths crossed and recrossed over the years as political activists in the North during the 60s, as pre-trial prisoners in Pretoria, as fellow Robben Islanders, and as friends and comrades throughout. Their friendship deepened in their later years when they were both retired and were running the Namibian former Robben Island Political Prisoners Trust together. When Andimba died, Helau said of his friend that he had led a life of humility, learning, sharing, leadership, and sacrifice. Whatever he did with complete conviction and for the good of all Namibians. His example had inspired him since the age of 15 and inspired him still. I remember him as the extraordinary leader who made the brilliant and brave speech at the conclusion of the 1967 terrorism trial and set the tone of defiance which enabled the Namibian prisoners to keep their dignity and to survive the incredibly harsh conditions. They refused to submit to the system of prisoner classification, which gave privileges in return for what was deemed to be good behavior. So they suffered harsher conditions than other prisoners, but they did so on their own terms. I remember him as the man who spoke out against tribalism, elitism, and corruption, and reminded young people to be focused on the common good and to continue fighting for a just society. Finally, I remember him as a frequent visitor at our house during the last years of his life. He often spent whole days with us before he acquired an office, and I would listen to him responding patiently and resourcefully to endless phone calls with requests for assistance, from finding a school for a child to finding a solution to a pressing political problem. I remember him for being particular about what he wanted to drink, for teasing our children, and for being interested in everyone he met at our house. He was always very kind to me. My most cherished memory is of Andimba and Hilau resting after lunch on 2 sofas in our sitting room, the long one for Hilau and the shorter one for Andimba. I would hear them laughing and chatting. Then I would realize all had gone quiet and they were both sleeping. It was a great privilege to come to know this wonderful man. As we think of Andimba's legacy, 100 years after his birth, we are reminded of the simple mantra which guided his life, enabling him to keep moving forward towards the vision of a better future for all Namibians, despite seemingly insurmountable challenges. Where there's a will, there's a way. Jane Shichiwete.
Thank you, Turi. And send the comrade Biens is here now. Is it so? Oh, Matsa, please come and share with us your thoughts.
Good morning. My sincere apologies, Your Excellency. I want to share 3 moments of time in my encounters with Comrade Toivo. But I also want to say that, you know, when we write or when we speak, we always quote people that we do not know. But in the case of Comrade Toivo, his speech that was referred to was always my quote in my life. As a young activist growing up in Namibia, I didn't know, I have not met Comrade Toivo. But I knew what he said in an apartheid court of law. Those were the words that inspired many of us as a student in the UK. After his release from prison, he toured to come and say thanks to those that supported him, that called for his release. And at that time, I was the chairperson of the Swapo students in the UK. And we had a meeting at the church next to the Swapo office in Arsenal. And I had to speak on behalf of the students. And you will not believe how I felt standing up to speak to a person that inspired me when I didn't know who he was, except that I knew what he stood for. When I hugged him, I said to him, "Thank you, comrade. Thank you just for being who you are. And for me to still be alive to meet a person that I regard as a hero." Many of us don't have that privilege, but some of us had that privilege of meeting our heroes. My second reflection of Comrade Toivo was that I never thought a time will come that I will repeat his words in my life. And in his speech he said, "I will never betray my people. I think we remember those words. And I remembered it at a time that it happened to me too. When I was imprisoned in the Lubango dungeons, I thought of Comrade Toivo. And I met him actually when I went into his office after my release. I was in Luanda, and I went into his office and I handed him a letter I wrote to Comrade Sam Nujoma to explain the truth, and nothing but the truth. He asked me a question: were you tortured? I said yes. And he said that is not Swapo policy. My third reflection of Comrade Toivo is at my 60th birthday. I had a tent at the back of my house, and it is a bit steep. So we arranged for a wheelchair to take him down. And he was so stubborn. He said, no, I'm not going to sit in a wheelchair. And we explained to him that, it's better if you go in the wheelchair because we want to spend the night with you, because anything can happen you going down there. So he finally agreed to sit in the wheelchair, and my brother was pushing the wheelchair, and he says, are you a racing driver? Don't push the chair too hard. Now, what does these three reflections say of the person that we are gathering here to honor on his 100th birthday? It talks about a person that is brave. Talks about a person that is humble, and a person that takes no nonsense. That is the Toivo I had known. But even more than that, I think I can count myself a family member of the Toivos. I have adopted these two beautiful girls as part of my life. Vicky has been my friend. And I think let's remember his words. I will never betray my people to their enemy. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Ganas. May I respectively ask Meme Vicky to share the family thoughts?
Your Excellency, Comrade President, Comrade Nas, so many of you are people that we're really happy that you came. You're really friends of Andimba, and you're really, many of you, members of our family. Now, I am grateful that we are being given an opportunity to broadcast what is said here on television. This thing is being covered live. Many of you know quite a few of the things that I'm going to say about Andimba, but I think there are many, many Namibians who don't know. So I hope you will indulge me. I must say that what has been said already enables me to shorten what I was planning to say. So No, I think I have to keep this on. It's a lot of sun. Okay. It's been more than 7 years since our beloved husband, father, and uncle passed away. And we miss him greatly. We miss him a lot, and we think about him every day. Today, we, as a family, will share a few reflections on several themes in his life and legacy. And we'll come back on other days to continue this conversation. There's so much to be said about Andimba. First, I want to start with the early part of his life. It's important to know that Andimba attached the greatest importance to education. He did whatever he could do to develop himself, to further his education. Now, of course, when he started, he was taught by his father, who was a teacher, under a tree in Omungundu, the village that he was born in, along with other children. And his father died in 1936. His mother, Elizabeth Nashikoto Malima, I should mention his father's name was Ushona Mwandeke. His mother managed to get him some education, some formal education, but it was limited. It was vocational education. He went to school in Anguadiva. This was times when you could go for 2 or 3 years, and that was it. You had to make place for someone else. So it was limited. As a young person, he was seeking adventure. He and a couple of his friends decided to enlist in World War II into the South African, I think it was called Native Military Corps. He was 17 and below the age for enlistment, but he lied and was, I guess, convincing because he was accepted. He went to South Africa for about a year, and then he came back, and he, like so many others, joined the contract labor system. He worked as a farm worker. He was subjected to very cruel and exploitative conditions. And when he left, when his contract, he wanted to break his contract, but he knew, he was told he would be arrested. Breaking a contract was a crime back then, so he was afraid of going to jail. So he continued. But when he left that, he said he won't do that again. He said he was going to do it again. He ended up maybe a little bit differently. But when he got out from the contract labor system, he ran into a friend of his and learned that this friend was speaking English, or as Andimba put it, he was speaking English like Queen Elizabeth. And he asked him, "Where did you learn to speak English?" And the man told him he had gone to a school called St. Mary's in Odibo. Now, Andimba had never been to Odibo. I don't think he really knew where it was. But the next day, he went there. He just said, "No, I want to go there. I want to go to this school." So he went on foot. I don't know how far it is, but it's not close. And he was able to take up residence in the home of the Hamtumbangelas. Reverend Hamtumbangela was studying in South Africa. His wife needed someone to stay in the house. So he moved in there, helped with the family, and began his studies. His studies began with the ABCs. Now here's a man who's already an adult, learning with much younger children, such as Otto Kapia or Skinny Hilundwa. But he because he had some previous schooling, he seemed to be able to progress well. And he went as far as a black person could go back then, which was Standard 6. He was a teacher then for a few years, but he wanted further education. And he heard that you could go to Cape Town and go to night school and work in the day. So his plan, he implemented the plan of going walking to Nkuru, taking a bus to Rundu, and then joining Wanela. I think is it called Wanela? Yeah. And he went with a couple of friends. They went to South Africa to work in the mines in the area of Johannesburg. But that was not his intention. His intention was to just get there and then to get to Cape Town. Well, eventually he got to Cape Town. And when he went to Cape Town, his education took a new turn. I don't think it's what he thought he was going to be doing, but he worked first as a railway policeman and then as a general laborer in a furniture store, a general worker. But he was virtually immediately exposed to the organizations that were fighting the apartheid system in South Africa, which included the ANC, the Communist Party, the Colored Labor Organization, the South African Indian Congress, the Congress of Democrats, and the Labor Party. He started going to, whenever they would hold rallies, he would go to them. When they had open activities, he went to them. And he eventually joined the ANC. He joined the Modern Youth Society through an introduction by Godongwidi. He met Jack Simons. Jack Simons was a professor at UCT and a communist. It'd be interesting to know that Andimba did not realize that Jack Simons was an Afrikaner. He only learned this many, many years later because he could not have imagined that a white Afrikaner could be this progressive person. But Andimba and some other Namibian workers used to go and take political classes there. This made a very big impact on his thinking. And in addition, I said he joined the ANC, but he was in Cape Town when the Freedom Charter was developed, when the Freedom Charter was written and launched. So these were the ideas that he was exposed to. Now, in the context of his time, Andimba was a working class intellectual, and his education taught him that change could only come about through the organization and mobilization of people to achieve the goals that they set forth for themselves. So he embraced bold goals, not goals that, some of them were goals of others before him, but he embraced the goals of bringing an end to the contract labor system, an end to South African control of Southwest Africa, and to achieve independence, and also the idea that his people and not foreign companies could control and share the natural resources of their country for the benefit of the people. Also, he became an advocate of the position that women should be free to live in the police zone, either to join their husbands who would go there, or to find work for themselves. That was not the position of women then. So that was a very, I would say he was a modern man in that respect. Now, I was told by Ray Alexander, who was a trade union leader and the wife of Jack Simons. She was also a communist. She told me that she had traveled to Johannesburg to consult with Walter Sisulu to ask him whether she should recruit or try to recruit Andimba into the South African Communist Party. And Walter Sisulu said no. He said, the people of Southwest Africa have to have their own organization to liberate themselves. Now, I think Sisulu was right. And Andimba would go on to make an enormous contribution to this struggle. Now, I want to talk a bit about what he was like as a person. Everybody, and I will try not to repeat things that have been said. We all know he was very determined. He set goals and he worked towards those goals. His most important goal was to achieve independence. But he said that was his goal. When he was expelled from Cape Town, and he was expelled because of his political activities, he stopped in Windhoek and consulted with Chief Hosea Kutako. I'm sure it's the first time he met him. And Chief Kutako advised him not to go to the north because it would be very dangerous for him. He could be, even killed. It would be not a good situation. But Andimba had his own ideas. He knew that it was necessary to mobilize the people of Southwest Africa. Most of them lived in where he came from the north. And so he went ahead. He was periodically subject to detention, to house arrest, other restrictions from the beginning, but periodically he would be able to get out of these. And he and with a group of comrades, they started organizing Swapo all over the north. And in the beginning, it was by bicycle. They traveled throughout the north, signing people up. And you can still meet many people today who will tell you that Andimba signed them up. And I won't say many, but you will meet people. Now, he operated from his shop, and one of the things he did was he sent hundreds. He was responsible for helping people who wanted to leave the country and join the struggle or further their education. So his shop was a center of this activity. That's where people would find him. And he helped, he sent many people abroad, including these two gentlemen sitting here. And I'm informed that he introduced them, or at least brought them together. They went to the same school, but he brought them together. So it was very fitting that they arrived here together to pay homage to Andimba. Now, Andimba also played a role, as been said, in supporting the Swapo guerrillas who came into the country. And he ultimately was arrested, and I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. And taken to South Africa. And when he was detained, he was severely tortured while awaiting trial. Now, the law that he and his comrades were prosecuted under didn't exist when they committed the so-called crime. It was passed afterwards to prosecute them. He, as we know, and I'm not, I don't think I need to repeat it, it's been said so eloquently, he gave a speech in court at a time when they knew they were convicted, and it was a question of what was the sentence going to be. They could have been sentenced to death. And he gave a speech that did express the aspirations of his people. And it did become, I don't know what you call it, it inspired many, many people in the struggle. And I think the idea of teaching it in school, it's great. I would encourage you all to read it. It's available. You can find it. But I want to just mention several other characteristics of Andimba. It's mentioned he was a man of great integrity. Now, it was mentioned, for example, that Andimba and others refused to accept privileges in jail. When I say privileges, if you had good behavior, you could study. You were classified. Andimba was encouraged to do this. But consistent with his view that South Africa had no right to try him and his comrades, that he didn't recognize their authority. And so, in his view, he shouldn't cooperate. So he didn't. He also, various people would come from Southwest Africa, Namibia, who wanted to see him. People who were somehow collaborating with South Africa and wanted to get him to work with them. He usually refused to see them. And these are people that he knew in the past. He even refused to see a few good people from South Africa who came to see him because he did not want to collaborate with the South African government. Now, another aspect of his integrity is when he was taken to Windhoek after he was taken out of jail, he didn't serve his full sentence. He was supposed to be there for 20 years, and they took him 2 years early. He refused to leave jail. He said, I'm not going because I left behind comrades who were there. I do not want, we haven't finished what we set out to do. Those people must release. I'm not going. He had to be, and by the way, his mother and his sister came to see him, and they agreed with him. It was only when the Swapo comrades came and spoke to them, plus the South Africans told him, you have no choice. You're getting out of jail. He left the jail. But one other aspect which I think is an indication of his integrity is there was a time after he was a minister when he had a dispute with the government over his pension. He actually, because of his age, the way the pension was calculated, he got the lowest pension of anyone because he was the oldest person. Even if he had and the formula also was based on the age of the wife, and I should have been younger, or he should have had a younger wife. In any case, he sought legal advice, he was given advice, and was ready to go to court. He was told this was unconstitutional. And the comrade said to him, no, don't do this, you could lose. He said, I don't care, what do I have to lose? But then he was offered a settlement, and he refused to even consider a settlement. He said, there are other people who served in Parliament who were in the same position as myself, and I'm not going to make a deal for myself. Andimba was a very caring person. When he was back in the north, having been expelled from Cape Town, he learned that Ray and Jack Simons, they had been banned. So Jack could no longer teach at UCT, so they didn't have an income. So he, as a dutiful son and friend, he sent them Ovamba baskets to sell to generate some income. When he got out of jail, and I can't imagine what money he had next to no money. The money that he had, he instructed his lawyers to send it to various people who were still in jail, whom he named. Most were in jail with him. One of them was Dennis Goldberg, who was in a white prison. But he took his little money and sent it to these people. Also, as I think most of you know, if Andimba ever heard that anyone was sick, he would visit them. He would visit them not just once, but more than once. He would attend every funeral. He was somebody who, the concept of showing up, I don't think he saw it as showing up. He just thought it was a part of what he did. But he did that consistently, and it's something that has influenced us. Andimba attached a lot of importance to the family. He was a unifier in the overall family, but to the extent that he could, he paid a lot of attention to my nephews and my daughters. As a parent, he had been told in an early stage by Comrade Nahas, when he put the two boys in a private school, that it's no good to spend the money on them and not help them with their homework or supervise what they're doing. So he tried to the extent he could. He attended the parents' meetings. He attended the violin concerts and the ballet concerts and all of those things that any other parent would do. But the most important thing he did was he also made sure that on Sunday everybody worked cleaning the house, but including himself. But what was the most important thing is he talked to them about how they're supposed to treat other people. not once or twice. That was just a part of their relationship. He tried to teach them to be respectful of everyone. Now, I attended something where Andimba spoke on the 20th anniversary of Nelson Mandela's release from prison. And Andimba went on and on and on and on. And the MC said, you know, she was trying to get him to sit down. And he said, no. I said, yeah, I have something I want to talk about. I came here to talk about it, and I'm going to do it. And they let him. Now, I'm not putting myself in that position, but I realize that it would be nice if I stopped now, but I have a few more things to say, so please bear with me. They're all about Andimba. When I said about his family activities, he grudgingly gave in to taking a vacation every year for a full month. A vacation was something he did not know. So this was something new. He did it so that we could spend time together as a family. And he was open to adventure, such as going snow tubing down a mountain. Now, mind you, this is a man in his 70s. He did a lot of things. You know, he just did them because he was open to new experiences. Andimba embodied human solidarity. I said at one point, I think he was the friendliest person I knew in Namibia, but he was somebody who would show up unannounced, not only at the house of his friends, but he would show up there would be a new ambassador from China or wherever. He would show up at their house to visit them, unannounced, without any arrangements made. It was very shocking to them, but I think they got used to it. He kept in touch with everyone. He would call them and say, Kandinasha, and then he would just say, no, you know, I just called to say hello, how are you, etc. In Namibia, he always traveled by road, not because he was afraid of flying, but because traveling by road gave him the opportunity to meet new people. And he developed friends all over the country. And they're friends of different ages, of every ethnic group, every religion. They were all people whom he considered and they considered to be his friends. Now, when he met most people, it was, I don't know if it was said today, but it was said when we were on Good Morning Namibia this morning, the commentator had this experience. When he would meet someone whom he hadn't known, especially a young person, he would always ask, what is your name, where are you from, where are your parents, go into this whole history. And if he didn't know where you came from, who your parents were, then he didn't know you. You know, it's not, oh, here, you met this person, he shook hands with you once. So he took an interest in people and he remembered these things. In some cases, he could tell them histories about their own parents and their grandparents, which they did not know. Okay. It has been said, and I don't want to dwell on it, perhaps it's the most important thing, but I don't want to dwell on it. Andimba's life embodied selfless service to the nation. He did not covet positions. He was not interested in a position of any kind for himself. He was interested in achieving goals. Also, as far as the way he was, there was an NBC interview that was replayed the other night. I don't know if any of you saw it, but it was really what I call quintessential Andimba. Andimba never thought of himself as being different from anyone else. He wasn't, I'm a minister, I'm higher, or whatever it is. Whoever it was, he treated them with respect. He treated them the same. He treated them with interest. And that's what made so many people appreciate him. It was a quality that not all leaders have, but it's a quality that endeared him to so many people. As has been said, he said it's up to us to make it or break it. he was confident that the Namibian people would achieve economic emancipation. He really was confident. He did not think it would be easy. He particularly had confidence that the young people could be convinced to serve the nation and not just themselves. And so he was optimistic about the future of the country. Now, at this time, for the 100th centenary, the family decided to make this a centenary year. And the chair of the Centenary Committee is Comrade Nahas Angula. There will be activities, as has already been said, during the election period. There will not be many things going on except the planning, but from January, February of next year until August of next year, there will be a range of activities, including the launch of the foundation. The foundation was created when Andimba was alive and registered. He was to be the first chair. For a variety of reasons, we were unable to operationalize it, but we will. And you will see, and we will also welcome anyone who wants to support us in organizing the activities in the coming year. To shorten the program and not have a vote of thanks after the main speaker, we want to thank all of you for coming. We want to thank, and I know how much Andimba meant to most of you here. We want to thank the members of the family in particular who helped to organize this event and the refreshments that we will have. We thank the comrades who have spoken already and advised us on the planning of this event. And I think I've said more than enough, so thank you.
Thank you, Meme Vicky. It's a story of 93 years. So you did a good job to cover as much as you could. Yeah, 93 is when he was arrived. Now, at this juncture, it is my honor and privilege to invite His Excellency, Dr. Nangorombumba, to come and share with us his thoughts.
Meme Vicky, Kukunashikoto, Kukum Taleni, Tatbena Madira, Tatenahas, Tatangula, all comrades present here. We owe you thanks, Meme Vicky, because you are the one who started either sending us messages or calling us to remind us of this day. We are grateful for that. In my family, somebody received one of your calls or your message, and he said, Vicky said, you are one of Toivo's boys. Now, being called a boy at this age is quite not the most pleasant thing that can be said about you. But I was so happy to be called Toivo's boy. Without him, I could not have had a membership card of Swapo, a small card, which I consider one of my most original and authentic identity card when I got it in '65, just before we left with Comrade Nahas and joined up with Kangolohui in Botswana. Mine is not a speech. A lot has been said. There are many, many things you can say about Andimba. Here is a man with roots in his own polity, as Nahas will put it, in his tribal authority. Nobody can challenge Toivo in terms of his own roots, where he was born. The Malimas and others. You cannot challenge them that they were not Ndonga proper, if I have to be rough. Okay? Then this is a man who was born in a Lutheran church. His parents were Lutherans. He crossed the border, went to Odibo, studied at an Anglican school. In those days, people of noble origin don't cross borders going from one polity to another. You stay where you were born. But he did that. And to me, it is a clear indication that Andimba was able to cross borders, to cross religions, to cross racial boundaries, tribal boundaries, national boundaries, and become an international figure. We might doubt what the younger generation will say or do. That is for them. Toivo has done his duty better than most, better than many. So we don't have to worry about his record. We should worry about ourselves. Toivo has done his best. What he said, every child who was in exile will tell you the struggle will be long and bitter. But they knew that. And if we did not transfer that into Namibia, that is our responsibility. That is our guilt, not Andimba's guilt. Now, I call them Kuku and Kuku because I know what I'm talking about. They carry the names of the greatest women I ever known in my family. The Nashikotos, the Mutalenis, the Namenes. And their princes are called Kukus. They are not, Memes are those who are married to noble men, but they are Kukus. So, to make things short, may I request all of us to rise and observe a respectable minute of silence in honor of this icon of the Namibian Revolution. Attention. Thank you very much, and let us sit down. Thank you.
Thank you. Don't worry, I was also born on this day. That's why my phone is ever ringing. We have come to the end of this special occasion. Meme Vicky is inviting you for tea somewhere. Where? Oh, that building. Those of you, you want me to come there? Yeah, those of you who are retired like myself, we can go for tea there. But those of you who are working for the government, it depends upon your chief, whether he will allow you to be there.
Okay, we will definitely. Those of us, we have to go.
Now, I wish you all a happy day today. Oh, ring of the wreath. Oh, ring of the wreath. Yeah, yeah.
That essentially brings this very special program to a close here at the Heroes Acre, of course, where the late Andimba Toivo has been laid following his passing on the 9th of June 2017. Today he would have turned 100 years of age. You heard there from friends, you've heard there from comrades, you've heard there from family as well, of course, who were in attendance here. Of course, President Angolo Mbumba also just recounting on the contribution of Herman Andimba Toivo, who's considered a liberation stalwart of this great nation, having sacrificed so much, including 16 years on Robben Island, and of course to ensure that his country sees a free and a fair path for itself, of course a path of self-determination. And certainly I think he is smiling from wherever he is today. Of course, we did hear there from the various speakers. We heard there from the chairperson of this committee as well, of course, headed by Nas Angula, also doubled up as a director of ceremonies. Interestingly enough, he's also celebrating his 81st birthday today on the 22nd of August 2024. And I think it's befitting that he oversees this committee and also, of course, was director of ceremonies for this very important occasion. Somebody that he knew, somebody that was, of course, a comrade of his, and somebody that continues to inspire him as he continues to contribute to this country. Of course, we've heard there from the family, we've heard there from the friends. They are celebrating 100 years of what would have been his birthday today, and of course, just reflecting on his contributions to this nation. With that, we've come to the end of this production. From myself and the Shisha Mfungu and the entire production team, thank you so much for tuning in, and it's pleasant viewing ahead. Goodbye.